Hello and welcome everyone to our lesson today. I hope everyone is doing very well. Today we have a grammar lesson, the past perfect tense. When do we use the past perfect tense? The past perfect tense is used to express something that happened before another action in the past. So actually we have two actions or more in the past. The earlier one that happened, we put it in the past perfect tense. And the second ones, we put them in the past simple tense. Let's study some examples. The first one, I had washed the dishes when Carol came into the kitchen. We have here two events. The first one, washing the dishes, and the second one, coming into the kitchen. So the first one that happened, we put it in the past perfect. So I had washed the dishes. And the second one, we put it in the past simple, came. Okay, let's study the second example. Scott had polished his car when his dad came home. So the first event is polishing the car. So we put it in the past perfect, had polished. And the second one, came, we put it in the past simple. So we have here two events. The next one, Sarah had made a coffee and went to the meeting. So the event that happened earlier, we put it in the past perfect again, had made, and the second one, went, past simple. So can you tell me what's the form of the past perfect? The past perfect formula. Subject plus had plus past participle, the same like the example here. Had made, so we have here the subject plus had plus the past participle of the main verb. Okay, now let's study these tables. Past perfect. Here we have the affirmative sentences. How we start the sentence? We have here subject pronouns. Then we have had and the past participle of the verb. It doesn't matter the subject is singular or plural. Had goes with all of them. So I had eaten before the taxi arrived, or you had eaten before the taxi arrived, and so on. What about the negative form of this tense? I had not eaten before the taxi arrived, or you had not eaten before the taxi arrived. Had not equals hadn't. So hadn't is the short form of had not. Now let's go for interrogative or how to form the question. We start with had, subject plus the main verb. So had you eaten before the taxi arrived? And how to answer this question? Using yes or no. Yes, I had, or no, I hadn't. If we start with WH question, we put it here before had. For example, what had you eaten before the taxi arrived? And in this case, we will give information in the answer. Okay, now please open your students' books, page 79. Page 79. Past perfect. Explore. Task 1. Read the text. Look at the verb in blue. Did these events happen before or after the man called the radio station? So, what are we supposed to do here? We have to read the text. Then we have to decide the events in blue happened before or after the man called the radio station. Let's start reading. Listeners to a radio program in Chicago were very surprised when a man phoned the program and said that he was a bank robber. At the beginning of the program, the presenter had asked listeners to call in and confess to any small crimes they had committed. The man described the crime exactly. 5 months earlier, he and 4 other men had gone to a bank in Chicago and had stolen $81,000. A woman who worked in the bank had also helped in the robbery. The man was obviously very proud of himself. He didn't give his name on the radio, but police later discovered the man's telephone number and arrested him. Now, can you tell me, these actions or these events happened before or after the man called the radio station? Had asked, had committed, had gone, had stolen, had helped? Yes, excellent. All of them happened before the man called the radio station. Okay, now please, let's go for the next exercise. Complete the rule in the Learn This box with before, after, or at the same time as. I want you to read them. I'll read the first one with you. We form the past perfect with had or hadn't plus the past participle. Now I want you to read the rule and complete it. Go ahead. Have you finished? Okay, let's check it together. We form the past perfect with had or hadn't plus past participle. Number 2, we use the past perfect to talk about an event that happened before another event in the past. When the police arrived at the house, the burglar had escaped. I was sure I hadn't met him before. Had you already left the house when you phoned? Okay, now let's go for the next exercise. Exploit. Task 1. By the time you arrived at school this morning, which of these things had you done? Write sentences. He gave you the first one as an example. I had had a shower. Look here, had plus the past participle of have. So I had had a shower. The second one, I hadn't had a shower. So here positive and here negative. Okay, so I want you to write all these sentences in your notebooks. Now let's go for the next exercise. Complete the text with the past perfect form of the verbs in brackets. We have here a text, so please you have to read it and you have to complete the gaps or fill in the gaps with the verbs in the past perfect form. So in all of them you have to use had plus the past participle of the verb in brackets. Okay, you have enough time? Go ahead. Have you finished? Let's check your work. Yesterday afternoon, Australian police chased two joyriders in a stolen car for 600 kilometers. Earlier in the day, the joyriders had stolen a car in Adelaide and had then stopped for petrol at Werla, but they hadn't paid for the petrol and the owner of the petrol station called the police. The police chased the stolen car, but it was too fast for them. They eventually caught up with it 3 hours later. The joyriders had run out of fuel. Earlier, the police had realized that they couldn't keep up with the stolen car, so they had ordered all petrol stations in the area to close. So here, we write had plus the past participle of the verb. As you see, we have here regular and irregular verbs. For regular verbs, we have the past form or the past participle form with ed. But for irregular verbs, the past participle is completely different. Okay, so please you can study them in your workbooks page 112. Okay. Number 3, hadn't paid. The next one, had run, had realized, and had ordered. Okay. Now please, let's go for the next exercise. Exercise 3. Complete the sentences. Use the past perfect and your own ideas. So it will be the same. You will answer it yourselves in your notebooks. Okay. Now please, I want you to open your workbooks, page 70. Exercise 3. Complete the sentences. Use the past simple for one gap and the past perfect for the other. As we know and as we learned in this class, we will use the earlier event in the past perfect and the next one will be in the past simple. So please study them carefully, read them carefully, and complete the task. Go ahead. Have you finished? Let's check your work. Number 2. I looked out of the window. Somebody had sprayed graffiti on our car. So the first event had sprayed and the second one locked. Number 3. Everybody had left by the time I arrived at the party. Number 4. I didn't have, here is past simple, any pizza because my brother had eaten it. 6. The robbers had taken my friend's mobile phone, so he borrowed mine. Okay, now let's go for the next one. Exercise 4. Put the verbs into the correct tense, past simple or past perfect. So please read this story carefully and write the verbs or both the verbs in the correct tense. Go ahead. Have you finished? Let's check your work. I was in a bad mood already that evening because nobody had remembered my birthday. And then, as I walked up the door of my house, I had a strange feeling that something was wrong. I could see a light under the door, but I was sure I hadn't left the lights on that morning. I put the key into the lock and opened the door. Then I heard some noise. Had I forgotten to turn off the radio too? I was getting very frightened. Perhaps there was a burglar in the flat. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Surprise!" It was my brother and sister. They had arrived earlier and let themselves in. On the table, there were some presents for me and a cake. They hadn't forgotten my birthday after all. So here we'll correct this one. It will be forgotten. Now please, we have here practice sheet. Complete the following sentences using the past perfect correctly. So you will fill in all the sheets using past perfect only. Again, what's the past perfect form? Had plus the past participle. Go ahead. Have you finished? Let's check your work. The first one had finished, second had broken, 3 had closed, 4 had forgotten, 5 had stopped, 6 hadn't changed, 7 hadn't made, 8 had bought, 9 had read, and 10 hadn't flown. Thanks a lot. See you.